Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Perfect. Good morning.
I know, try again, right?
I know, geez Louise. I say good morning once and nobody pays attention. I say it twice and everyone's here. How are y'all?
Terrible.
Terrible? Tell me a little more about it, Daniel.
Gabby Downer.
I was going to go to UT baseball game tonight. Was extremely excited about it, and then it started raining outside.
Well, it might hear up. Yeah.
Don't you be negative.
You know, there's a sign in the bathroom at, I think it's Longhorn, that says worry is like a poker hand that's never been dealt or something like that.
I thought you were going to say if you pee on the floor, wipe it up.
If you pee on the floor, wipe it up. Yeah, that has nothing to do with this.
It's not too bad. It's not too bad.
Yeah, baseball term. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've heard of if you've got to go to the bathroom, think about something else, but not. Yeah, no. We're going down the wrong path, guys. All right. Well, good morning. It's good to see you all. I'm not Avis. I'm Scott. Avis is at a meeting at Trek today. She should be back with us next week. So you get me today, and we're going to talk about withdrawing an offer. So, how do you do it?
Email.
There's a form now. I saw a form the other day at Tar.
Diane, you've always got to jump right to what you're supposed to do and not let everyone tell me what they think they should do. Risk management's over. Diane told us how to do it. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know
There-
how to do it in MLS.
Perfect. There is a form for it, and we're going to talk about it. And at the same time, if you haven't ever used the form and you don't use the form, if there is something in writing that states that you're withdrawing your offer, it should stand up. Yet this is a form that was created by the Texas Association of Realtors that gives you a more formal way of presenting it and saying we're withdrawing our offer. So why would you want to withdraw your offer?
People, the sellers take too long to respond.
Seller's taking too long to respond, or maybe there's a bunch of other things that got in the way, and or maybe you were looking, maybe you put in an offer and decided, hey, you know, there's a house that just went up for sale over there. I want to go look at that one real quick. Found a better one. There's a bunch of different reasons that you might want to withdraw your offer. So just keep in mind that a deal isn't dead until you kill it, and it's the exact same thing with an offer. So if you put a bunch of offers out there, let's say you're in a multiple offer situation and you're just putting an offer on literally everything you saw with the hopes of getting one of them, yet all of a sudden a bunch of them come in and you get accepted on a bunch of them, and you forgot about maybe a few of them that you used, you could be you would be obligated in that circumstance to pay an option fee for every single one that you were accepted on. So that could be a lot of money. It could be a little bit of money, depending on where you're at and what the price of the house is. So
Unless they have a small change on it or something.
yeah, exactly. Unless there was a small change or something like that. So this is one of the forms that will protect you with that. So let's just take a look at it. So notice of withdrawal of offer, TAR number 1945. It was created on, you're right, it is a very new form, February 1st, 2018. This is a Texas Association of Realtors form. That means it is not mandatory for use. It's optional. Notice of withdrawal of offer. Use this form by persons who are not members of the Texas. Use of this form by persons who are not members of the Texas Association of Realtors is not authorized. That's important for you to understand. That one simple sentence right there. The TREC forms are for use by every single person in the entire world. The Texas Real Estate Commission is really created as a protection to the consumers. So all of the forms that TREC promulgates can be used by absolutely anyone. And the forms that are created by the Texas Association of Realtors, which is a trade organization, are for use by only members of the Texas Association of Realtors. So this form right here couldn't be used by two individuals who are buying property unrepresented, it has to be used when it can only be used when there is an agent involved in the transaction that is a member of the Texas Association of Realtors, or Texas Realtors, as they're now calling it. I don't know if any of you guys saw that, but they're changing it from the Texas Association of Realtors to just Texas Realtors. So you'll start seeing some advertising things coming out on the magazines that you normally get that reflect that change. So it says to, you're going to put the name of the person there, buyer or seller, and then from buyer or seller, regarding the property concerning, regarding the offer concerning the property at, and you put the name of the property. And then Avis's little notes here, pretty self-explanatory. Who are you sending it to? Who is it from? What property is this concerning? Simple enough, right? All right, and then check one box only. Checkbox A, this notice is to confirm that checkbox 1, buyer, or checkbox 2, seller, has withdrawn all previously submitted offers or counteroffers to purchase or sell the above referenced property. The withdrawal was communicated orally by blank. You put the name there, giving notice to blank on blank at blank. A lot of blanks there. Or B, the checkbox 1 buyer or checkbox 2 seller withdraws all previously submitted offers or counteroffers to purchase or sell the above referenced property. And then Avis's notes once again, just read the form and fill it out based on our client's request. So right here, it could be the buyer or the seller that fills out this form. So let's say that you're in negotiations with somebody else and you haven't heard back from them yet. Once you provide this form to them, it kills the deal, whatever you've negotiated. So let's say that you're representing the seller and an offer comes in and it's $10,000 higher or maybe $10 higher, it doesn't matter. Or maybe they just like the offer better. Maybe it's a cash deal, who knows. This gives them the ability to send over this form and say, hey, we're withdrawing that offer that we just sent to you. Once it's executed, this form means nothing. You cannot use this form once you have an executed contract. Does that make sense? Any questions about it so far? Yeah,
so
Jeff.
I had this situation last Saturday.
Uh-huh.
Where
Man, we did this a week too late.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So what we ended up doing, they had countered, and it was just, but it wasn't a reason that we really withdrew. It's just that, hey, they liked this other property and they were going to go forward with another property, and
Yeah.
I just told them orally. But they had countered, so, and we didn't. Should I just rejected the counter offer, or I mean, should I still do this form at this point?
Were you the buyer?
Pardon?
You represent the buyer, right?
I was the buyer. We
Yeah.
were the buyers. Yeah.
Technically, the form isn't required in that situation because, well, it depends. It would still be good for you to send this form, because if they decide, you know what, we're going to go back and we're going to agree to all of those original terms that you originally presented to us, and you sign that form originally, they could go ahead and sign that form or sign the contract, and then you're under contract. So it would be best to fill out this form and submit it to them so that you have officially killed the deal. All right?
Prior to acceptance.
Exactly, prior to acceptance, or, well, prior to execution.
Right, execution.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions about this?
Yeah, I think so.
This
Yeah.
form is-
She just asked if this is a track form. We came in.
This is not a TREC form, it's a Texas Association of Realtors form. It's,
TR.
yeah, or it's a TR form.
I like tar better.
Yeah, well, I don't think they like tar because people call it tar.
Yeah.
And if you're ever at a Texas Association of Realtors convention or a Texas Realtors convention, do not call them tar. Or if you're ever at a National Association of Realtors convention, don't call them NAR. They get really peeved at that. So just a heads up. Exactly. All right, so then you're going to check the box for the appropriate signature for whoever it is, and then signature lines with dates. Time and dates are very important on this form. So you got to get it there before, obviously, the executed contract gets delivered to you. Otherwise, this form doesn't apply any longer. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? Well, that's the risk management that Avis provided. So now we're going to talk about what you guys want to talk about. What is it? Yes, ma'am.
I did have that question, although I was confused. I need to withdraw a listing from MLS.
Okay.
Because I had it in lot and farm,
Okay.
and I can't find, I mean, I've already marked the one that was sold.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to withdraw the other.
You can't. The broker has to withdraw it. You can send the information about it to Donna, and she can withdraw it for you.
Okay.
In the Actress and in the Austin MLS, the Central Texas MLS, and I think it's almost every single MLS, a listing cannot be withdrawn by the agent. It must be withdrawn by the broker. And in some MLSs, if you're going to get an extension, let's say that you had a listing agreement that went through April 30th, and at the last minute you got an extension through the end of October. Some MLSs require you to do the extension through the broker. Other MLSs, I believe the Austin MLS does not require you to do that. I think you can go in and adjust it on your own. So, yeah. But if you're in Waco, you have to send a fax, you have to call the Pony Express and all kinds of stuff like that. It's a lot different. It's a lot different up there. Yeah. Any other questions?
I would,
I have
Yeah.
a question. On the page where we list listing agent, buying agent, and all of our
On the contract?
yeah,
Yeah.
contract, I'm sorry. So if it's in-house, I
Mhm.
mean, someone else from this office, so down, we go on the right side, down at the bottom where it says someone agrees to pay other broker, we don't put a percentage in there, do we?
You can, but it means absolutely nothing.
Because there's no other broker.
Well, even when there is another broker involved in the transaction. So let me pull up the form really quick that that Virginia is talking about, and show it to you. So we're talking the TREC form, the 1 to 4 family contract. No thanks. All right, 1 to 4 family contract.
Okay.
So this form right here, let me zoom out just a little bit. Well, this is actually, yeah, there we go. Too small. All right, so this is the form this is the part of the form that Virginia is talking about. So if it's an in-house transaction, meaning both of you are represented by Avis, our broker, whether it's with a Round Rock agent or a Georgetown agent, this side is what's going to be filled out. And what she's referring to is this little box right here that says listing broker has agreed to pay other broker blank percent or blank of the total sales price when the listing broker's fee is received. Escrow agent is authorized and directed to pay other broker from listing broker's fee at closing. You can fill that out. You can choose not to fill that out. It means absolutely nothing, because if you go to paragraph 8 of the Texas real estate, the contract here, paragraph 8 of the contract says, broker's fees. All obligations of the parties for payment of broker's fees are contained in separate written agreements. So this form, or the 1 to 4 family contract, is not to be used to negotiate compensation. Yes?
I've been asked if you can repeat the questions that are
Yeah,
asked
absolutely.
here, if you can do that, so the people who are watching can.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thank you, Donna. So that box there is really only beneficial for the title company. It just helps the title company to realize how much they need to be paying to the other agent. Now, there's the disbursement authorizations that you get are what really tell the title company what you're supposed to be getting on that transaction. Now, why was the MLS originally created? Exactly. The MLS was originally created to show what brokers' compensation agreements are. So that bottom right-hand corner of that MLS printout is really the most important part for you. Over the last 10, 15 years, the MLS has turned into this really kind of a consumer-facing portal that allows them to see the pictures of properties, information about the listings, and all kinds of things like that. Yet, for us, the original intent of the MLS was so that we had an agreement between broker offices about what the commission arrangements were going to be. So when you're going to be going out and showing properties, if you show a property today, you need to print out those MLS sheets because you need to have what's reflected on the bottom corner of that MLS sheet. It's unfortunate. It does happen from time to time. It's a rare occurrence, I believe, but people have been known to go in there once you've written an offer and change that commission amount to reflect a lower amount. So it's important for you to print those sheets out to keep them with the entire deal, because if anyone ever chose to do that, you would then have proof that, hey, you know, when I showed this property, this is what it said my commission amount would be. And that's the way to back it up. Now, keep in mind that the people at the MLS can always go back and look into the changes that have been made to those things. This is just an extra way for you to have protection so that you don't have to wait for their red tape to go through to get all those things. You already have proof that, hey, this is what it said on that day. So, that answer your question? Good. And then along with that, so if it's an agent with the Round Rock office or the Georgetown office, all the information is going to go on this side. The listing agent's information and the buyer's agent's information. If it's two different brokerages that Avis is not a broker of, it would be the left side and the right side. Any questions about that? No?
I think you should remind everybody that they shouldn't use combo lock boxes on an occupied unit.
That is a really, really good point. So, how many of you have seen what the old combo lock boxes look like, with where you actually have to go in and put the numbers in? Mm-hmm. It's a terrible idea to put those on properties where people are living in them, because at least with the super lockbox, it's only a certain group of people, realtors, who have access to those boxes that can get into the properties. Now, with those original old school combo lockboxes, if that code gets out, it's out to the entire community, and anybody could go and use that, and you wouldn't have proof of who is actually at the home. And I'll use an example. There was a brokerage in Denver, Colorado, who carried about 300 listings at a time, and they used these combo lockboxes, and every single combo lockbox had the exact same combination. Oh, man. So you had that combination. You now had access to over 300 listings in the Denver metro area.
Also, the super lockbox, you can track who's been in and out.
Exactly.
For a combo.
It's all about tracking.
And time it too, so that it doesn't open past a certain.
Yeah, exactly. So it's important to not use those on listings that are occupied. Just keep that in mind. If you have a listing that is occupied and maybe you fall into one of those areas that doesn't necessarily have a MLS that covers it, I mean, you'd be pretty far out there in the boonies. But there are some places like that where you don't necessarily have the ability to put a super lockbox on, because all the agents who would be showing that property in the area don't have access to super lockboxes or the e-key. We call that the Old West. And you would need to, in that case, I would keep possession with the key, of the key, or inform them that they would need to schedule an appointment directly with the owner of the property, and the owner would need to let them in. But you would need to make sure that you know who is going to be showing that property. That's the whole reason the super lockbox was created, was so that we had a digital way to track who had been in and out of the listings. It was really a safety feature. So, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
This is back to commissions.
Back to commissions?
I have noticed on quite a few listings lately that sub-agent is coming up again with 2% in it, more than I have seen in a long time. Did I sleep through something that made that change?
It better not be any of our listings.
I'm just wondering, and it is another major company that I see that's doing that.
Is it frequent with all of their listings, or is it just like...
It's with most of their agents, yes.
Really?
They're thinking
So
it's their
I'm just
listing
wondering
commission.
if I slept
Yeah.
through it.
I think what they're thinking is it's probably their listing commission, their portion of the commission they're receiving. They may be thinking that it's, that let's say they took a 5% listing, they're going to pay the buyer's agent 3%. I'll bet they're thinking that 2% that they're putting there is what is the commission that they're going to be getting.
Sophie will put 2.5% there. I've seen it on her listings.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know why they would do that, but I'm noticing.
Why don't you and I talk about it afterward, and you can tell me who it is, and I'll see what we might need to talk about.
Just lack of education is all it is.
What's that?
Lack of
It's lack of representation. Yes, absolutely. And our policy is that we don't pay a sub-agent any percentage of the transaction because it's a lot riskier to do it that way. Any other questions?
Also, for Keller Williams, you might remind people that we pay 3% to a buyer's agent.
Absolutely. Our office policy is that we always pay 3% to the buyer's agent, and a minimum of 3%.
Right.
Absolutely. If you choose to do 4, 5, or 6%, way to go. You can totally do that. And there's a reason for that. One of the main reasons is in places like Sun City, our listings sell faster. And the reason for that is Sun City is a cookie cutter neighborhood, right? There's a lot of duplicated homes in there. And it's not ethical to do it this way, yet it happens a lot. There are agents who will see, well, down the street is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath floor plan of, give me a name of a floor plan in Sun City. Of Magnolia. Okay, and then that one's going to give me 2.5%, and there's the exact same floor plan up the street a little bit further. That's going to pay me 3%. They're both listed at the same price. Which one are they going to show first? Our listings tend to sell faster in Sun City because we always pay 3%. So, anything else? Man, these are awesome questions.
I have a question about Dalu.
Dot loop. Oh, you might be asking the wrong guy, but I'll try to help.
No, I don't, it's just something I just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're working with a client and you have a dollar, you put the loop together and then they don't go through with that deal. So you're now onto a new house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you use the same loop or are you supposed to create a different loop for each house?
Are you naming the loop the client's name, or are you naming the loop the property address?
The property address.
It would be, I think that it would probably be easier in that case to just create a new loop that has the current property address, because Dotloop created something about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago now, where when you start a new loop and you type in the property address, it'll automatically pull things from the MLS for you, including the listing number. So it'll auto-populate a lot of that stuff. And if you create, if you go back to the loop and just edit it and change those things, I don't know that it'll pull the same information in correctly. So it'd probably be better off to just start a new loop. Now, if you have a buyer representation agreement and information about brokerage services, things like that, I would save those as a PDF and then just re-upload those into the new loop.
I didn't do it that way, but because of that concern,
Yeah.
like, what do I do with these ones that have already been signed and I need to get this signed?
Yeah.
in? But-
The ones that have already been signed that can be used for other properties, I would just save as a PDF and then
Yeah.
re-upload into that
That's good.
new loop. And then there's one thing I don't know if a lot of you know on Dotloop is you can actually go through the when you're adding a document, you can click email, and it has a specific email address that you can use for that loop. So if you have PDFs that are already in an email that's been sent to you, you can just forward that email directly to that specific email address that's provided for that loop, and it'll load it right into your Dotloop without you having to save it to your desktop and then pull it into the loop. Yes, Pat?
Something that I learned, it's probably been there a long time, when you're adding a document like you were doing,
Yeah.
you have the 3 blue boxes, the center one is a browse. You can drag a document
Right to it.
right
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
I
So
didn't know that, and it's so quick and easy.
yeah, exactly. So what he's saying is, if you don't want to click the browse button there and look for those things like in a folder on your computer, if you know that you've already got that folder, you can just go ahead and click the open button and then choose every single document that you're going to import, and then just drag it all at once over to the center of the Dotloop screen, and it'll upload everything all for you right away. Yeah. Anything else?
I figured out how to archive actual documents, but not the actual loop.
That would be a Mary Fitek question, and she'll be here on the 8th. Or a Donna question. Donna, you want to elaborate on that?
Just come see me, it's easier to show you than
Okay.
trying to.
Yeah, it's probably something I'm just not seeing.
Perfect. So, is it right click?
Well, it's, you go over to there are 3 little dots.
There's 3 dots.
3 dots
Got it.
on the right side, and there's a whole bunch of things, and it says archive.
Okay.
There you go.
And I think you have, well, yeah.
Now keep in mind, when you archive something, it does not delete it. We still have access to it, and we can go back and get it. The reason for that is if you misplaced something, or maybe you deleted it incorrectly or accidentally, you can go back and get it out. The other reason we have it is for E&O. If there was something that was in there that wasn't done correctly or something like that, we can go back and see exactly what's gone on in those loops. So it's not ever deleted until after 8 years. Then we get rid of it. And then it's still in the cloud. So I don't think it'll ever completely go away. Just like any post you put on Facebook. Yeah.
I got a
Okay, Chicken Little.
an email from a buyer of one of my listings from about a year ago, and they wanted all of the pictures removed, and I had to tell her I can't remove them because they're all up. But one thing I think you can do is to remove the pictures except for the front picture
Before.
you put it as sold.
Yeah.
So that it will, I think it syndicates back out.
It can. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So what David's talking about is listings that sometimes people won't want all of their pictures to be displayed on the internet because they don't want people to know what the details of their house are, know what their floor plan is, and yada, 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 things like that. So if you have a client that wants that, you need to remove them before you mark it as sold in the MLS. Now, your client needs to be they need to understand, and you need to explain to them that just because you've done that doesn't mean that those pictures won't stay on Zillow and won't stay on Trulia and won't stay on all those places. The house that I bought back in 2012 in Round Rock, I can still go on there and see all the pictures from the 2 times it had been listed before that, and not all of those pictures are in the MLS. So just keep that in mind. Anything else? We got like 4 minutes left. We could be done early if you want to.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. David, you ready?
Ready.
Let's do it.
All right.
You get 4 extra minutes of David.
Yeah, we get 4 extra minutes of David. Mr. David Tandy. You want to put this on?
Sure.
Thank you.
Should be good to go.
You want me to put that up for you?
Load that up.
Man, that's a fancy one.
You have a remote?
I do, right here.
Good. Amanda, you want to come on up?
What is this thing called?
For those of you that don't know David, David is the CEO of Texas National Title. I'm the sales executive up here in Georgetown. I have a new closer to introduce to you guys as well. She is joined the ranks with Janice Shields. This is Alicia Weir.
That would be it.
She is very well versed in commercial and residential transactions as well as builder deals. So she is up here and ready to serve you all. If there's anything we can do to help, let us know. This is an updated version of the presentation that David presented for you guys in January, so we hope that you find it useful. I will email out a copy of the presentation afterwards. David will send it to me and I'll send it to you guys so that you have the slides to use for your listing or buyer presentations also.
Good.
So
Thanks for being here.
Of course. Thank you.
Without further ado, let's welcome David Tandy. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I need to turn this guy on here someplace?
I think it should be on. Let's
Okay.
double check.
All right.
You're good.
Give a plug for Alicia Weir that was just up here. She has been through so much of our training and has worked now with 2 different really good escrow teams and is now starting her own team. And I strongly endorse her. She's just got a lot of experience and really good with clients back there. Okay, so yeah, this is a shorter version that I did earlier. I do the kind of annual one at the beginning of the year. There's about 20 different slides, and I've got some slides at the end of it that talk about kind of where things are at Georgetown. But so I'm going to probably finish early. I'm getting to start early. I'll finish early, and I'll be glad to take any questions you may have.
That means lunch earlier.
But so if you do have questions, this is a really good time to jump out with them. So I'm going to talk about a few things on the U.S. level and some things about Texas, and then cover a few things on Austin, and then a few things in Georgetown. So we kind of cover it all. The unemployment rate for the United States has just continued to plummet. Really, really good news that employment is up across the board, both in Austin, in Texas, and across the U.S. overall. We've not only been at a low unemployment for the U.S., here's what it looks like for the last several months since October. I don't know if that's ever happened. You're down to 4%, 4.1% unemployment rate, and it is just like holding very steady there. I don't have graphs up here about the number of employees being hired, but we've been averaging 200,000 employees being employed in the country for 10 years. Every month, 200,000 employees. We're averaging that so far this year, 2018. So very, very steady employment, and therefore dropping in unemployment. Right now we're at a point both in the city and in the U.S. that we could probably employ more people. We don't actually have them to employ. One of the challenges when you have a low unemployment over a long period of time is that you wind up without a labor pool to hire from. So the people that are there to hire don't have the skill sets for the jobs that are opening up. So the higher level skill sets, like cybersecurity right now, there's hundreds of thousands of jobs posted right now for cybersecurity, and there's no one to fill them. They don't have enough people to do that. So the trade schools and community colleges are actually seeing a big influx of people interested in that, which is good, to try to get where we have a bigger labor pool to fill those positions. Here's where we are with Texas unemployment. Here is 3.5 unemployment. We've been below that. We've been below 3% unemployment in Austin. Again, we're the #1 city in the nation right now for the last 12 months for hiring people, and we would have hired more if we'd had them to hire. So this level of unemployment rate for now, really 3 solid years, is probably not even healthy. It's really hard for companies to relocate to a market and to look at relocating to a market whenever they look at the unemployment rate and they see that low of unemployment rate. They see the same thing. They see there's not a labor pool there. U.S. consumer confidence, this is from the University of Michigan. I tracked this all the way back to the total amount of time they had it, just to kind of drive home the point. We had a very high right here back in the Vietnam War, right prior to it. We peaked for just a little bit there. This was irrational exuberance right before Y2K and the tech bust. You remember all of the run-up of stocks and everything else that was going on back then. That was artificial. So I would tell you this is one of the longest running periods of time where consumer confidence has steadily increased. It's increased for very fundamentally good reasons. It's not for artificial reasons. And it's at a high that has only been exceeded these 3 other times that it's ever been exceeded. So consumers are feeling across the board, this is for the U.S., it's very, very true, even more true for Texas. Consumers consistently are feeling very confident about where things are going and what's going on for them. Mortgage rates, so as of last Thursday, mortgage rates were 4.5%. That's obviously an increase from where it was previously, but try to set some perspective on this so that everyone does understand this. I showed this last time. I've updated all this some more. Your average interest rate for the last 10 years is 4.5%. The interest rates for the previous 10 years is 6.93%. So we all sold houses whenever it was 6.93% and everything was just fine. I remind everyone that this is when I went to work. I started doing closings in 1981. I literally, right at that little dot right there is when I went to work. And I closed loans at 18%. So it was not fun. And those are not good loans to close. Those are not good loans to close. But we still did business. So the point is that interest rates can climb quite a bit further and it still be a normal market. It does have an impact. Every 1% increase in interest rates, you're going to have an 11% decrease in your buying power. So if somebody's at 4.5% and it goes to 5.5%, and you qualified them at $395,000, they're going to be able to be qualified for $40,000 less of a house. So it does have an impact, and I'm not saying that it doesn't. This is actually something to really keep in mind, that this is an issue with rising interest rates, is really working with your buyers and your sellers to understand where the price points are going to be for them. This kind of gives you a summary of just what's going on in Texas. Oh my goodness, Texas is just about as healthy as you can get from an economic standpoint. We've, through December of this last year, hired 2.18 million jobs for the last 10 years. Through December this year, last year, we've hired for last year in 2017, 300,000 jobs. We're projected to do 360,000 jobs in Texas, and that was the projection. Dallas Fed and a couple other projections, the Governor's Board, and we're beating that so far this year. We're hiring more than, if we stay on the same track we're doing right now, we're going to beat 360,000. We might actually do 400,000 jobs. So Texas is about as rocking along at 4% unemployment rate. Texas is just about as perfectly healthy of a market as you can get right now. Unemployment rate, 92 consecutive months that our unemployment rate, that we've had job growth and a declining unemployment rate. Population growth, we've added 5.5 million people since 2005. We've been leading the nation for the last 12 years in employment, in population growth. So you see a lot of people moving here. A lot of you have sold people to have moved here from other out of state, and it is a very solid trend. And a lot of those people are coming from states that are financially not only in trouble, but they're getting into more trouble. They don't have a balanced budget. There are many of the states that are running a multi-billion-dollar deficit, a 10 and a 20 and even a $30 billion deficit. And that is not what we do in Texas. The Republicans and the Democrats work really well together to have a balanced budget. It hurts every single session they do. There's things that we don't get to do that everyone wants us to do. But the end result is that we wind up with a balanced budget. So that's a huge pull for both employees and employers when they see a state that knows how to balance their budget. It's hard to talk about Texas and not talk about what's going to go on in oil. We have hit a high in oil production in our nation. We are going to surpass Russia and Saudi Arabia this year in production of oil. We'll be the #1 producer in oil. Texas produces 38 to 42% of that oil in the Permian Basin and the other basins they have. So most of that increase for the oil production in the U.S. has come from Texas. It's been the increase that Texas has had. So it's a very, it's kind of a two-edged sword. We all remember the 80s whenever we had an oil bust and Texas went into a recession like you've never seen before. So it's scary whenever you're that dependent on something. We noticed that when oil dropped down to $25 and $35, Texas did not go into a recession. In fact, Austin continued to grow jobs. Dallas continued to grow jobs. Houston is definitely was hit hard, but even they are doing really well as far as job growth and their unemployment rate. So I think that that's really good news. We're running around, Brent is running around $66 a barrel right now, which is excellent. It's not $120 like it was, but it's a very excellent compared to $30 and $40, and they've realized, and the technology has changed so that they can produce oil and go add more drilling rigs and drill more wells at the $66. The question is, are we, the United States, going to overproduce so much that we're going to crash the price of oil? And that's a very, very big concern. This is from the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. This was updated through 4/13. Right here is through where we are right now. And notice their projection for price is that it's going to decrease. I don't want to be caught disagreeing with the Federal Reserve of Dallas, but I actually don't think that's going to happen. I think that the OPEC countries are scaling back their production. They are terrified of the price of oil going down. They tried that. They lived with that for 2 years to see what would happen. They didn't like what happened at all. So Russia and OPEC have both announced they're extending their curbs. They're extending the period of time that they're going to keep the amount of oil reduced through 2019. And Venezuela is producing less and less every day because of their collapse. So I don't know that that's going to happen. But even if it does, I would tell you Texas has already stood the test of time and probably will do even better. If we were to go down to $40, $35, we're in better shape than the last time it went there. Our technologies have gotten to where we're producing even more oil at that price. So I think that's a big issue for Texas, is that oil is going to continue to be a very positive thing for Texas, regardless of whether this happens or it stays steady or it even increases some. Could very much actually project that it could increase some, and there are projections out there that by the end of this year it could be higher than $66. Here's where all of the cities in Texas are doing. We're ranked number 2, Dallas number 7, Fort Worth 13, San Antonio 15. Even Houston is hitting with 2.2% growth rate and ranked 18. That was through February. Here's through March. Austin shoots up to number 1, Dallas is still number 7. Doesn't really get any better than this. We're generating more jobs on a growth rate percentage than any other city in the United States right now. We've been in the top 10 for the last 6 months. We had dropped way down the end of last year. The last 6 months of last year, we had dropped down to we were not in the top 10. Out of the last 10 years, we've been in the top 10 most of the time, almost every single month. And now this last month, we've worked our way back up to number 1, creating 36,000 jobs. If you go on the websites, if you go on the Chamber website and pull up, it actually shows all of the job postings. There's about 36,000 jobs posted right now. We're only creating 36,000 jobs a year. Trading 12 months, in a year we create 36,000 jobs. And right now there's 36,000 jobs posted for openings. So we would create more jobs right now if we had the skill sets. We're as a country and as a city, we're not accumulating or growing enough people with the right skills to fill those jobs. It's really interesting to look through the job postings because there are so many very highly paid and good skilled jobs. You kind of look at where we are as far as gross number of jobs. So 36,000, Phoenix is 65,000, Dallas is 78,000. That's really not that impressive from the standpoint of the number of jobs being created. Some of those Atlanta and Phoenix and Dallas are used to being able to, and Houston, grow 100,000, 120,000 jobs, 150,000 jobs in a trailing 12 months. So they've really dropped down in the number of jobs that they're creating. And again, it's just because of our ridiculous unemployment rate we've got in the nation right now. I know this is about Austin, but I wanted to spotlight one thing because it really does affect Texas. We're now exporting oil, and Corpus is the number 1 exporting city in the United States. I just think that's pretty amazing. They are in the process of deepening the channel to 54 feet, widening it out to 530 feet, adding barge shells, which is another 200 feet on each side. And that's for 36 miles long. That's a huge multi-billion-dollar project. Does anyone know the bridge that's down there, that beautiful, gorgeous bridge they have? They're taking that whole thing out and putting in a bridge that the top of the current bridge will be the bottom of this existing bridge because they need much taller ships to go through there. They're adding new docks. They're adding a ton of new docks that can handle the Panamax, the really large ships that now can go through the Panama Canal. They've quadrupled the rail capacity down there. And they're putting a brand new pipeline in from the Permian Basin down to here for exporting. We're not producing enough oil for all of our needs, but our refineries don't refine all the oil that we're producing. So it's actually easier for us to import in some oil that's easy to refine and export the oil that's not easy for us to refine. So that's what we're exporting out. And pretty big change. It's nice to see us be exporting. If you're going to look at Austin and say, what is one measurement as to how it has Austin done, this is the measurement I would use. I would look at our GDP, our regional domestic product, our overall economic growth over a 5-year period of time and rank all the cities. And when you do that, Austin's the number 2 from overall economic health for the trailing 5 years. It just doesn't get any better than that. That is a very, very solid measure, and even better that there's 2 other cities in the top 10 that are from Texas. Here's the median average sold price for Austin. Continues to go up. It's a little scary what's going to happen to everything. Here is the total sold listings, ABOR through March. You see, I've had people tell me, last year just didn't seem like as good, or this year doesn't feel like we're selling as much. And there's your last 3 years plus this year. It's just as consistent as it could possibly be, and we're actually ahead this year of where we were this time last year. And last year was equal to what it was last year. Here's GTE. Here's sold listings. We've sold 11 more listings, 26% increase. Active listings, 55 more active listings. Sales volume, meaning millions of production, up 44%. Year to date, up 39% year to date. Here's GTW. Sold listings 168 versus 136 for March, 376 versus 305, 23% increase. Active listings are down for year to date, but active listings were also down. People aren't listing properties. I know this is a big shock to you all to see and know that people are not listing their homes as much as they need to, and that's definitely continuing to impact our what's going on with our inventory. Look at what's gone on for sales volume, 26% increase in sales volume. I don't know that it gets any better than this, folks. Those are just about as good as numbers you can get. The only challenge you've got is that you don't have as many listings as you need in the market. I mean, that's just a reality. And that was a very brief update. So see, I did that. Look at that. I did that in 15 minutes, guys. Last time we talked a little bit about Amazon. I can give you an update about that, or I can talk about anything else you might have questions about. But anyone have any questions? Here, a quick one about Amazon. So Amazon is become more apparent that the old statement that CEOs tend to move their companies to where they want to live. That is a very common statement, and it really does happen. So Bezos, hush.
Sarah's telling you about Amazon.
Yeah. Hush up. So Jeff has a $26 million house in Washington, D.C. One of the things I didn't realize when this all started was that Northern Virginia is literally the central hub for worldwide internet cabling and traffic that goes through there. And Jeff they're the largest cloud provider for cloud services in the United States, in the world actually. So there's a really strong reason to locate it right where that hub is. He needs to be on the East Coast, and he needs access to the largest labor pool for tech talent that he can, and they have 3 times the labor pool we do. So I just cannot imagine. I think it was picked before he ever did anything. I think it was going to be Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C. area, Montgomery County, so that whole area somewhere in there. I think that was a dead cinch, and that's only become more apparent. So I don't think we want it here anyway. I think it would kill our area. I think very good chance it will get some of the spinoff from that. So, any other questions? Yes.
So we're seeing a trend, not a bubble, for the long term. 5 years, 7 years out.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say?
Say it again. A bubble?
Yeah. So we're not in a bubble.
Yeah, we're not in a bubble.
This is a sturdy foundation.
So a good way of looking at it, the question is, so are we about to pop, or are we about to peak, or is there some kind of correction or recession coming? I get that question a lot. The typical up cycle, growth cycle, is about 9 years. We're past 9 years. We're going into 10 years right now. That's the average. The longest is 14 to 16 years. The last one was like 7. The last 2 before that were 14 and 12. So it's not hard to predict that we could easily have 4 or 5 more years before there would be some kind of adjustment. Everything is cyclical. You're going to see a down cycle. It's going to happen. Most of them are usually triggered, not always, but they're triggered because of something artificial. And there's just almost nothing that's artificial. We haven't overbuilt. In fact, we're vastly underbuilt. We don't have loans being approved that people shouldn't be getting. You know, underwriting standards are high. So those are two things that always kind of triggered things that were not good. And the stock market definitely has been overpriced, but it's done a lot of correcting here lately, and it hasn't slowed down the economy. So I think we've already kind of baked in the people being irrational exuberance on the stock market and pricing things that more than they should. And they've taken their profits, and we've responded to our president and all his tweets, and I think that's kind of out of our system. So, yes.
I was reading an article the other day that talked a little bit about what Johnny's referencing, and it talked about how they think that one of the indicators for it this time would actually be more out of the corporate sector than anything with corporate debt, because they said it continues to rise even though there's huge tax cuts for big companies, and they're not necessarily addressing the debts that they have, and they're just continuing to raise them even though they're getting a big deal right now. What do you think about that?
It depends why they go into debt. If they're going to debt for expansion purposes and or M&A or things that make sense, then I think that's a minimal impact. I think that our country's debt might be an impact on it, and I could talk all day on that. What other questions?
What about the, do you have any stats on population growth of Austin as far as where we're at compared to the United States? You know, obviously I know relative to size and everything.
So the question is, what's are we looking at from a population growth for the Central Texas area and for Texas and for the U.S.? A really good rule of thumb is that the United States was growing a little over 1%. This last decade, we've been growing a little less than 1%, so like 0.9 per year. So, not quite 12% per decade. Texas has been growing very steadily, about 2% every year, just for 4 decades. Austin's been growing about 3% per year for 4 decades. So when I started in 1981, we were 500,000 population in the Austin market. We're 2 million now. Yeah. And Georgetown and San Marcos kind of trade back and forth between being the number 1, 2, or 3 growth rate. So when you see a growth rate of 5%, that'll put you up in the top 10. When you see a growth rate for a little small community of 50,000 plus, when you see a growth rate of 8% to 10%, that'll put you in the top 1, 2, or 3. And San Marcos and Georgetown has hit. In the last 10 years, they've each hit 8 and 10%. Wow. Several times where they were the number 1 growth rate. And then the next year they're like 5% and they're down, just in the top 10, but still, that's huge. 10% growth rate of 50,000 population is 5,000 people. If it's half that, that's 2,500 people. So it's a very very steady growth rate for Central Texas. And really, not only is there nothing that is not only going to continue, there's nothing that's going to slow it down. People are more looking at Central Texas and more looking at Texas than they ever have. People are going to flee California like they never have. Yeah. Once they really grasp the impact of taxes, what's hit them on taxes, that they can't deduct their California personal income tax, they can't deduct that now. So they just got hit with another 3 or 4% income tax or tax rate overall.
Yeah, income tax there is about 13% for the state.
Yeah, and you can't deduct it. So you just jumped it up another 3% that you're paying out of your income, and people are just like, I'm done. I've got to get out of here. So they're losing population now more than they ever have. And where do they go to? They go to Texas. And where do they go to in Texas? They go to Austin. So, that's just a very consistent. The same out of New York. Any state that had a personal income tax, and we're trying to balance a budget like that, this last tax law really screwed them. I mean, it is a brutal blow. New York, California, several other states. So I see population growth being stronger for the next 10 years than it's ever been. I don't see anything keeping that from happening. It'll be impacted by affordability of housing in this area, because it's going to make Dallas and San Antonio look better than ever, because the gap is widening on our median home prices.
Yeah, I looked it up the other day in Georgetown. I think we were up about 240.
Yeah, it's It's a we're compared to California, we're amazingly cheap.
Yeah.
Compared to Dallas and San Antonio, the gap is growing a little bit for a median family. So it makes it affordable. It makes more companies want to look at. Well, maybe I'll look at San Antonio. Maybe I'll look at Dallas. That might have looked here. Anything else? Well, thank you all.
Great, thank you.
Where's my little guy? Oh, okay.
All right, well, that's all we got for today. Lunch will be here in a little bit. So thanks for being here. Y'all have a good day. Hope you enjoyed it.
That was great, thank you.
What's that? Oh, you know what? Yeah, actually, hold on. Is there anyone that has a new listing they want to tell us about? Yes, Sarah, sorry. I jumped the boat, sorry.
Get back on
I got
board.
one live on Thursday in the woods in Round Rock.
Okay.
This is it's pretty awesome, I think, for the Old Town Elementary. It's one of the lower price point neighborhoods. It's a lovely house. It's, I think it's like 2584 square feet. It's 4 bedrooms upstairs. The master's humongous. I mean, you can have king size bed, a dresser, it's a big sitting room. It's got a his and her closet, garden tub, shower, all that. One of the bedrooms is extremely large for the kids, but it could also be, it has a place for a fridge and it has a sink. So it could be a large kids room or it could be a media office room, something like that. It's got 2 dining and 2 living rooms downstairs. What's really cool about it is it backs up to this like lightly wooded area, and it's 100 steps from their back gate to the school. So she watches her kids go to the school every morning. So if you know anyone that's a teacher, has elementary kids, but it's actually wooded, so you get that little bit of privacy.
And
it's
what schools are those?
It's Old Town. Did I say the wrong thing?
No.
Old Town.
Old Town,
Yes.
Walsh, and Round Rock.
Oh.
Not except it's kind of near Old Town, but just that
Highly
wooded
desirable.
area makes it like you're not just like on the school or in the parking lot. You've got this private little area that's there. I think it's going to do well. $294, $950, and it's Thursday, and we're going to have an open house on Saturday.
Awesome. Pat.
Mike Canfield asked me to announce that he's got a listing new.
The coach.
Tile, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, all brick, recent carpet, covered back porch, large trees, 1910 square feet for $229.
Awesome. Anyone else?
Yeah, I've got several listings coming.
Okay.
We've got 8 5-acre tracts in Hutto you can use for anything from mobile home sites to industrial park.
Okay.
Got 45 acres on 79 in Hutto coming. Bring your $3 million, you can have it. We got sewer.
All right.
Got a building in Temple with Mr. Duke up there in the front.
Thank you.
Boxing studio. Maybe a guy in Georgetown that the guy that owns the one here might want to take it out.
All right.
210 price listing on that one. And Diane Waters and I have about 4,000 feet on the breakaway runway. It's got a 3-car garage and a place for a couple of Cessnas, so it's about $1 million. So bring us one for that. That'll be on the market next week.
That's cool.
Awesome.
Information on that.
Perfect.
Okay. Anyone else?
I've got one coming up, it's over in River Hill, right off of 35,
Okay.
right south of Walmart,
All right.
that area.
Yeah.
Everybody's got it. This is on 1.5 acres, 1.5 acres. The house is 2,600 square feet, needs a little bit of updating, but it's gonna be
How much?
349.
And it's 2,600 square feet, you said?
2,600 square feet, it's great. It needs some updating, but it's right next door to this other one that's 460,000.
So is it in?
It's in that river, like country out. No,
Oakcrest?
it's just south of Walmart. Right off of the River Hill. You turn on River Hill, and then you turn on Hillview.
Yeah, I know where it is. Where the Sampler used to be. The antique, the Sampler.
Oh, yeah, right there.
All right. Anyone else?
I got a price drop on that listing I have on Newberry over in Tucson Crossing. We're going to drop that about 5,000.
Okay.
From 245 to
240?
240.
All right. Perfect. Any other new listings? All right. How about buyer needs?
I've got someone looking for Fountainwood, about 3,000 square feet, and they would really like to have one that's already updated.
Okay.
And possibly with a pool, a big 3-car garage, or a garage and workshop. So if anyone's going to have anything in Fountainwood anytime soon, let me know.
How much?
All right.
Probably in the mid
Okay.
All right. Anyone else? Any other buyer needs? Yes, ma'am.
Northwest Georgetown, at least an acre, at least half an acre with a pool up to 450, at least 2,000 square feet, prefer a one-story,
Okay.
How big is the lot, you mean?
at least half an acre.
All right, anyone else?
I still need a cattle lease, anything within an hour and a half of here, some form of land with water, please.
All right.
All right.
Anyone else? Are there any coming soons that we need to know about?
Me and Meredith has a couple. We've got one in Rancho Siena. I'm about to list this Saturday.
Okay.
It's about 2,200 square feet. D.R. Horton at 192 Santa Maria. It's got massive oak trees, like the biggest ones in the whole neighborhood in the front yard.
Okay.
That'll be coming soon. Probably this Saturday. And then we've also got one Lakeline.
Lakeline, behind Lakeline.
Yeah, we'll get you the details on that. We'll post it on the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Anyone else?
Balcones Village in Austin is actually gonna go live this weekend. So that will finally be on if anyone has an Austin buyer.
Okay. Anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Sold! Thank you. All right, it looks like our lunch is going to be Chick-fil-A, and it's going to be in here in a minute. Donna, who's our sponsor today?
Michelle Toomer, but she may not be here.
From where?
BFS Home Warranty.
Michelle from BFS Home Warranty. We'll thank her for our lunch when we see her later.
And I have a
Lunch is
flyer
on its way in just a minute. We'll email out that flyer to everyone. So thanks for being here today. Have an awesome week, and we'll see you all later.